All right, we're hitting at 70% in our last 10 $1.99 daily best plays on BrockPage.com. And $1,000 bettors are currently up over $3,300 during that stretch. And if you want to see which one of these games on this video here today is being featured as my $1.99 daily best play, the link for that pick is in the description section below. That's right, it's only going to cost you just $1.99. And with that, let's go ahead and get into some free content here. The Lakers take on the Hornets. 1 o'clock Eastern tip-off on Sunday, January 30th, 2022. Happy Sunday to you. Hopefully you're having a great weekend thus far. Charlotte's -6 with the total at 224.5. Now the Hornets failed to cover in 3 out of their last 4 ball games. And they're going to work here today without Hayward, McDaniels, and possibly Kelly Oubre. Having said that, though, these guys still got the W in 7 out of their last 10 ball games. And they're currently winning nearly 70% of their contests at home. Now, scoring-wise, the Hornets are currently averaging more points per contest than any other team in the NBA. They're also in the top 5 in the association in shooting the 3-ball. P.J. Washington's drilling 40% of his three-pointers this season, along with double-digit points a game, certainly looking to pick up the slack with the absence of Gordon Hayward. Meanwhile, Miles Bridges, he leads the team with points with over 20 of them a game, along with 7 boards and 3.5 assists. And even though defensive play really isn't Charlotte's strong suit, well, they are still in the top 10 in guarding the 3-ball at home, so there is a little bit positive there. Now, they're taking on a Clipper team who won just 10 of 24 on the road. They're actually amongst the worst in the NBA in defensive rebounding. As a matter of fact, these guys are in the bottom 3 in the NBA in defensive boards per contest. Meanwhile, offensively, on the other end of the court, LA scoring only 104 points a night when they travel. Now, injury-wise, Batum and Morris are questionable. Preston is out. Meanwhile, for Charlotte on the other side, once again, Hayward and McDaniels are out. Kelly Oubre is questionable. When it comes to the total on this one, the Hornets saw their last 3 straight get over the posted number. And those were overs against the likes of Indiana, Toronto, and the Lakers. Meanwhile, the Clippers on the other side of things, they saw 6 out of their last 7 get over the posted number themselves. I'm going to lean toward Charlotte -6 in the over 224.5. Next contest, it is going to be Lakers versus the Hawks, 1 o'clock Eastern start time. The Atlanta Hawks are -8 with a total at 225.5. Despite the absence of LeBron James and potentially Anthony Davis, we're looking at a Hawks team on the other side who may have to go to work without their leading scorer, Trae Young. As hot as the Hawks have been here recently, they still do have their struggles on the defensive end of the court. Atlanta's currently in the bottom 10 in the NBA in points allowed per contest. And they're also having a tough time guarding the field goal. They're taking on a Laker team who's in the top 10 in road scoring. And they're actually scoring the majority of their points in the second quarter. Russell Westbrook's averaging over 18.5 points a game, along with 7 boards, 7 assists. Meanwhile, Malik Monk is drilling nearly 41% of his three-pointers, and he's also scoring over a dozen points a game. Now, injury-wise, LeBron's out. Davis is questionable. Meanwhile, for Atlanta, Young and Hunter are questionable for them. When it comes to the total on this one, Atlanta saw their last 3 straight fall under the line. They also went 60% to the under in their last 10 meetings with Los Angeles. Meanwhile, the Lakers on the other side of things, they saw unders recently with Philadelphia, Brooklyn, and Indiana. I'm going to lean toward the Lakers +8 and the under 225.5. Next matchup, it is going to be Blazers versus the Bulls, 3:30 p.m. East. Chicago's -6, totals 229.5. Now, Chicago covered the point spread in 5 out of their last 8 ball games. And they're also doing a great job covering the number at home. The Bulls are currently 15-8 against the spread at the United Center. And they're also winning 74% of their ball games there straight up. DeMar DeRozan's averaging 26.5 points per contest, 5 boards, 4 assists for the forward. Meanwhile, Zach LaVine's making 40% of his three-pointers. He's also scoring 25 points a game as well. When it comes to shooting the basketball in general, well, the Bulls are leading the NBA in offensive field goal percentage at home. They're taking on a Portland team who plays some of the worst defense in the NBA. Portland's currently dead last in guarding the three ball. They're also letting their opponents make nearly 49% of their field goals against them when they travel. Now, injury-wise, Lillard and Zeller, they're both still out indefinitely. Meanwhile, Nance and Ellaby, they're also sitting out for this contest here today as well. Meanwhile, for the Bulls on the other side of things, Caruso and Ball are both still out for them. When it comes to the total in this one, 4 out of Chicago's last 7 fell under the posted number. Meanwhile, the Blazers saw unders recently with Minnesota, Miami, and Orlando. I'm going to go ahead and lean towards Chicago -6 and the under 229.5. All right, next matchup I have for you, it is going to be Cavaliers versus the Pistons, 6 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Cleveland's -8 with a total at 210.5. Now, the Cavs have failed to cover in 3 out of their last 4. They've also had a tough time offensively in certain areas this year. Having said that, though, the Cavs did get the W in 8 out of their last 9. They're playing some really good basketball here as of late. And they're actually covering the point spread in nearly 70% of their road games this year. Darius Garland scoring almost 20 points a night, along with 3 boards and 8 assists. Meanwhile, Jared Allen's grabbing 11 boards a game himself, along with 16 points. And speaking of boards, the Cavs are actually in the top 10 in the NBA in offensive rebounding on the road. Meanwhile, defensively, on the other end of the court, Cleveland's leading the entire NBA in fewest points per contest allowed away from home. Now, they're taking on a Pistons team who's dead last in the NBA in offensive field goal percentage on their home court. Detroit's also scoring just 102 points a game at the Little Caesars Arena. And they also lost 7 out of their last 9 at any location. Now, injury-wise, Grant and Livers are both still out indefinitely. Olynyk is questionable. Meanwhile, for Cleveland on the other side of things, Markkanen and Rubio, they're both sitting out. They're both still out indefinitely themselves. I'm going to lean toward Cleveland -8 and the under 210.5. Next contest, come on, get it out. Next contest I have for you, it is going to be Mavs versus the Magic, 7 o'clock Eastern start time. Dallas is -5.5 with the total at 211. Now, the Mavs won 7 out of their last 9 ball games, and they're allowing only 103 points a game. Now, Dallas also finds themselves in the top 5 in defending the 3 ball. When it comes to the scoring in this one, Luka Doncic is averaging over 25 points a game, along with 8 boards and 8 assists. Meanwhile, Jalen Brunson, he's scoring over 15.5 points a night himself, along with 3 rebounds and 5 assists as well. They're taking on an Orlando team who lost 7 out of their last 10. And they also rank dead last in the NBA in defending the 3 ball at home. And speaking of home games, the Magic also scores fewer points per contest at home than any other team in the association. They're actually making just 30% of their shots from 3 land at the Amway Center. And of course, when it comes to the injury report, not even going to say it because I say the same names in every video. It's the usual suspects who are still out indefinitely for the Magic. Meanwhile, for Dallas, Hardaway and Porzingis are out. Brown is questionable. And when it comes to the total in this one, Dallas saw their last 3 straight get over the line. Overs against the likes of Indiana, Portland, and Golden State. Meanwhile, Orlando went 6-3 to the over in their last 9 themselves. I'm going to lean toward Dallas -5.5 and the over 211. Next contest, it is going to be Nuggets versus the Bucks, 7 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Milwaukee's the 6.5 point favorite at home with the over and under at 227. Now, the Bucks failed to cover in 3 out of their last 4 ball games, and they've had some difficulties grabbing defensive boards. That in mind, though, the Bucks still got the outright W in 4 out of their last 5, and they're leading the entire NBA in offensive rebounding at home. Giannis Antetokounmpo, he's grabbing over 11 rebounds a game, along with 28 points. Meanwhile, Bobby Portis is knocking down nearly 41% of his three-pointers. He's also scoring 14 points a game. Now, the Bucks are in the top 5 in scoring on average per contest. Meanwhile, defensively, they're in the top 3 in defensive field goal percentage. They're taking on a Denver club who scores only 106 points a game when they travel. Now, Denver's also had some difficulties grabbing offensive boards. They're currently in the bottom 5 in offensive rebounding per game. Now, injury-wise, Cousins and Barton are questionable. Murray and Cancer are both still out indefinitely. Meanwhile, on the other side of things for the Bucks, Lopez is still out for them. Hill is doubtful. When it comes to the total in this one, Milwaukee went 60% to the under in their last 10 ball games, 15 and 11 to the under at the Pfizer Forum. Meanwhile, Denver, on the other side of things, they saw unders recently with the likes of New Orleans and Detroit. I'm going to lean toward Milwaukee -6.5 and the under 227. Next ball game, it is going to be Spurs versus the Suns, 8 o'clock Eastern start time. Phoenix is -13.5, totals 228. Now, the Suns are on a 9-game winning streak, and they've played exceptional basketball in front of their home fans this year. These guys have been lights out over the past couple of weeks or so. Having said all that, though, Phoenix does have a losing record against the point spread at home. And they may be going to work here today without McGee, Crowder, and DeAndre Ayton. All those guys are listed as questionable to play here this evening. So I know Phoenix has been really, really good, but there are a few areas of concern here for me, especially laying that big of a number. Now, Phoenix has also failed to cover in 6 out of their last 10 meetings with San Antonio. So if you're into historical trends, we're actually looking at a Spurs team who covers more in recent meetings here. And speaking of the Spurs, they actually got the outright W in 2 out of their last 3 themselves. They actually averaged 125 points a game during that stretch. Now, the Spurs have a winning record against the number on the road here. They're actually in the top 10 in scoring on average per game. Keldon Johnson's drilling nearly 45% of his 3 balls this year. He's also scoring over 15 points a game. Meanwhile, Dougie McDermott is drilling 41% of his 3-pointers. He's actually scoring nearly a dozen points a game himself. Now, rebounding, when it comes to grabbing boards, well, the Spurs are in the top 10 in the NBA in offensive boards. Now, when it comes to the injury report, Murray, White, Pirtle, and Bates-Diop, they are all sitting this one out here today for San Antonio. Meanwhile, for Phoenix on the other side, once again, Ayton, Crowder, and McGee, they are listed as questionable. Nader is out. When it comes to the total in this one, Phoenix is 6-3 to the under in their last 9 ball games. Those were unders against the likes of Indiana, Dallas, and this very San Antonio team during that span. Meanwhile, the Spurs are 15-9 to the under when traveling this season. That's good for 63% in that particular category. I'm going to lean towards San Antonio plus 13.5 and the under 228. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our next and final matchup of the show. It is going to be Jazz versus the Timberwolves, 8 o'clock Eastern start time. Minnesota's -1 with a total of 227. But as bad as Utah's been here recently, it's actually the Timberwolves who lost their last 2 straight. And they currently rank dead last in defensive boards at home. Meanwhile, offensively on the other end of the court, the T-Wolves really haven't been shooting the basketball all that well either. They're actually in the bottom 3 in home offensive field goal percentage. They currently find themselves in the bottom 10 in shooting the 3-ball. Now, they're taking on a Jazz team who still wins 60% of their ball games on the road, despite their recent struggles. Utah is also the best rebounding team in the NBA away from home as well. They're leading the league in defensive rebounding away from home. And they're also in the top 3 in road offensive boards as well. And of course, speaking of offense here, Bojan Bogdanovic, he's scoring over 17.5 points per contest, along with 4 rebounds. Meanwhile, Jordan Clarkson, he's scoring 15.5 points a night himself, along with 3 boards and a couple assists. Now, the Jazz are still in the top 3 in the NBA in scoring on average per game. So as much as they've struggled recently, we're still looking at a team who has the ability to put points up on the board. Now, injury-wise, Gobert's still out. Mitchell is questionable. Meanwhile, for Minnesota, Beverly, Russell, and Okogie, they could possibly sit out for them. Now, total-wise, Minnesota's 14-9 to the under at the Target Center, 60% to the under in their last 10 meetings with Utah. Meanwhile, the Jazz saw 5 out of their last 7 fall under the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward Utah +1 and the under 227. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our quick pick recap. Powered to you by my website at brockpage.com, where we are currently 5-3 in our last 8 extra daily picks. I like Charlotte -6 over 224.5. LA Lakers +8 under 225 and a hook. Chicago -6 under 229.5. Cleveland -8 under 210 and a hook. Dallas -5.5 over 211. Milwaukee -6.5 under 227. I'm also leaning toward San Antonio +13.5 under 228. And with my next and final free pick for the video, I'm going to lean toward Utah +1 and the under 227. And with that, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on brockpage.com. If you guys do end up getting a membership here today on my website, just keep in mind you're going to get billed the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. I always tell folks in every single video, the earlier in the month you sign up, the better. And also, if you're thinking about signing up for my board member package, well, just keep in mind, board members get access to every single pick that I give out on that website. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. I really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, guys, happy Sunday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at brockpage.com.